This is the monthly board meeting of the Netarts-Oceanside Sanitary District. This is being recorded, and I'll call the meeting to order. It's 5:30. And the first item is approval of the agenda. I have a motion to approve the agenda.
I so move.
Second. And a second?
Second.
Jeff, okay. Any comment or thoughts on the agenda? It looks pretty clean without a whole lot of extra things on it. If nobody has any comment, all in favor of accepting the agenda as written, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, guests, there are none.
I'm not a guest. Sorry, I'm late. Oh, wait, Peter was having a meeting down to.
Yeah, I figured you might be down there. Public comments, none. Board questions, comments, or discussion?
I have one question, and if I need to put this in a different spot, let me know, but I was told the other day they're doing a PUD transmission line program out to Oceanside to try and get a transformer out here.
Yep.
And I was told that they were gonna use some of our property as a spot to put the transformer. I was curious where that was gonna be.
The only thing that PUD is notified us on is they're setting a new pole down on Happy Camp Road, and it's going to affect our pump station. So we'll have a power outage from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m.
Okay. I was just curious because they were talking about like in the lot next to the one down in Oceans, so the main one when you drive in. And I thought, man, that's a horrible place in an inundation zone for the entire electrical transformer for this area.
Unless Jerry has, I haven't heard of anything being.
He was the PUD chair, was just down at this meeting, and he mentioned that things were moving along. And he mentioned the transformer, but he didn't say where. I have heard where before, and it was not down next to the water. I just can't remember where.
He was,
But I'll follow up on
I
that.
was just curious because they said, oh, we're using Netarts sanitary land, and I was like, oh.
That couldn't happen without him knowing it, so.
I recall, and I could be completely wrong on this, that it was adjacent land somewhere.
Yeah.
So
It's over this way,
are you
maybe?
talking a transformer, or are you talking a substation? If you're talking a substation, it's just on the back side of our lagoon. But that's Spring Grove. That doesn't belong to us.
Gotcha.
It's on the back side of that fence, that
Maybe that's what they were talking.
That's where it's gonna
because the
be.
transmission line is supposed to come directly up and over the hill, straight down
Okay.
here.
Okay.
The conduit's already laid to the end of the asphalt here.
Okay. I was just curious because when they said it was our land, I was like, oh, I didn't know where.
They always consider it our land, but yeah, that's between PUD and Greenfield. But the conduits are laid in down this road, all the way out, like I said, just past the edge of that asphalt.
Well, I'm very glad they're doing the project because the estimation on a big power outage for here is that they could take 3 to 4 weeks to get, depending on what happens.
Now you know why we have diesel tanks everywhere.
Actually, 2.
Yeah.
I just went to a presentation on tsunami in Portland, what they talked about.
Oh, yeah, I got that lecture when I was out at the disaster thing.
Don't need to take time off the
Sorry.
agenda.
Thank you. I was just curious.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, minutes of September 21st, a motion to accept the minutes of September 21st.
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes.
Second,
I'll second that.
discussion.
The only thing I saw was on page 2, under collection systems. There's an I and a he that should probably say Mellow and Zwald, I believe.
What was that again? I'm sorry.
Under collection systems,
It's the first full paragraph I think you're talking about.
yeah, it says Mello also stated he'd been contacted by Ken Zwald, and then the third sentence currently says, I have asked if he, and I think that should say Mello has asked if Zwald.
See,
Okay, and I don't know, I guess we could leave it the way it is, but on the first page, items 6 and 7, something maybe to the effect that one board member was not present for this vote. Is all of a sudden you got 4 on the rest of the votes in it. And maybe we could just say, you know,
Somebody not voting. You can just say whoever it was, not.
Okay, so just say
It
like
was-
Nick Breyer was not.
well, you don't even have to put the name. You could just say one board member was not present or something like that for the vote, or. And that's true of 6 and 7. I mean, he didn't vote, but it was only because the person was not present.
You know, just,
What do you think? No,
I think just say what happened. One person didn't vote. I don't think you have to explain why.
okay, one person didn't vote. And then if somebody asks, we can always explain it.
Which is different than extension. Just did not vote.
Yeah.
Did not participate in the vote.
Then on the top of page 3, the word, and just whatever the board thinks, it says the current engine is discontinued. I was wondering if the current engine is an obsolete model. I don't know.
yeah, the current model, the current engine is obsolete,
Yeah,
so it's no longer produced. So
so rather than discontinued is an obsolete model, I was thinking.
well, the paperwork I got said discontinued.
Discontinued by,
That did? Okay,
discontinued by the
Manufacturers, what the actual statement
Okay,
says.
that's fine,
Discontinued by manufacturer.
that's fine.
Like there was a manufacturer.
I don't think you have to change it at all. Anybody have anything else? Okay,
Did I change my motion to, or as corrected?
yes,
I move to approve the minutes with correction.
and I'll second that. All right. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Next item is the September 30th financial statements for review of all funds. Motion to accept the financial statements.
I move.
Second. Discussion.
There was a $30,000 in the red on the cash flow.
Which page are you on?
6. I think 40.
So if you flip over to page 8, we had to make the bond payments. So general fund will carry that, and that's the amount that you see on page 6.
Thank you.
And then as soon as we receive the tax money for the bonds, then it will be deposited and go back to our account. Did you notice the SD the system development charge fund. That was the balance on that. It's over $1 million now. So we're receiving money for system development.
Or should we call it LP?
You can, if you would like, Barry.
It's not quite enough to get our sewer line though.
Depends on how much, but to do what Jerry had alluded to, no.
Yeah,
That's
Flip con.
maybe 25%.
yeah.
So are you, just for curiosity, anticipating any new connections or billings in October?
We already have one.
We already have one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
Okay.
There are other outstanding, but sort of, so.
Is there anybody that's under the older payment
Yeah.
schedule?
They should be off this fiscal year if they don't get it. If they don't get any more extension from the county planning, then that should be cleared up this year.
Okay.
All right. That's what the mercy of, if they go in, extension.
Is that property on Portland connected now? The one where they're doing the foundation?
Yes.
The big house.
It's a bit, yeah.
Is that the one they're building?
They're still pouring concrete like
They're still pouring.
3 weeks later.
Is it the glass? Yeah, scan. GASS.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it is going to be comparable to the steel that was put down with the house right there at the corner. You know, that blue house, that was an awfully expensive project too. Okay, all in favor of accepting the financial statements, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Bank reconciliation board audit. I was just curious more than anything else. What happened to the forklift? Died? You got?
Oh, no, it lost a seal on one of the hydraulic lift. So we'd send it in and they had to pull the whole front of it off and reseal it's a 3-stage, so it's got 3 hands on it. So we had all 3 of them repaired.
And I'm not familiar. Is that local or is that?
It is local at Floyd's Implement.
Okay. As opposed to having to go over to Salem or Portland.
Yeah. We actually purchased the forklift from them.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions? If there are none,
I have one thing. You had mentioned to Aaron about the signatures on checks.
yeah,
Did you need an explanation on why it's done that way, or?
well, maybe you can just explain it to the
So,
board.
all the board-
Everybody understands.
Sign a signature card and it's put into the software system. And so when checks are approved, we could pick any 2 combination of any 2 board members to put on that check and take a signature of 2. I think the last ones was you and Jim were on that. That was put in 15 years ago because it was difficult to get board members to all gather or come up and draw checks and sign checks. So we're pre-authorized to pay only the monthly, utilities, the monthly bills here. Anything that's beyond that authorization has to come to the board for pre-approval. And then once you approve it, then your signatures can be put on it. So it is automatic. They're printed on the checks when the checks are printed. In case any of the board was, didn't understand how that's done.
Yeah, so what it appears to me that this bank reconciliation and board audit we're looking at it, not necessarily approving it as these are already done, but basically some combination of two names is on each of the checks that goes out with these. And my only concern was that those are controlled,
Yes.
you know, and you assured me that that is yourself, and I think you are the only one.
Yeah, I initial each check after it's written. They're all brought to me for final review and approval. Sometimes we'll get bills for like Oceanside Water District or Netarts Water District, because some vendors don't get them separated right. So usually that's what I am looking for. But usually I don't, nothing's printed, no checks are written until I've already approved the invoice and turned it in for accounts payable. And there, you won't see anything on here that's over $10,000. That's my authorization up to that. So I have a standing approval for that. No capital expenditures are done without board approval.
So telling what we do in audit is correct. We're not approving, we're auditing,
Yeah.
it's already been done.
Yeah,
Just
so-
as an
Right.
oversight.
and that's something the auditors put in years ago for us to do because we were making too many late payments to vendors and stuff.
But nevertheless, your name could be on the check. That's, I just,
There's no non-active board members' names are not on those checks.
That's why we get paid the big bucks.
Yeah, that's right.
Also why we have embezzlement insurance, so.
do you have something that's very similar to that down? Or,
No, unfortunately, I have to hunt down board members for my back of checks.
okay,
I wish we could do that, but
okay.
you're trusting.
There's something called bioxide.
Yes.
What is that?
Basically, it's an odor control solution. It stops the odor after sewer sits in a pipeline for so long, the oxygen is used up in there. Then the microorganisms create hydrogen sulfide gas and, you know, other stuff like that. This stops that creation and also keeps them from going anaerobic from aerobic before they get here. So it's like a liquid oxygen, if you kind of want to look at it that way.
And where does it go in?
It's actually injected into the wet well at Netarts pump station.
Okay.
It's the one that has to travel the furthest.
Yeah.
So it's 9,000 feet before it goes to gravity. Then it goes to the main pump station and then it's fed up another 1.5 miles to here. So it'll take a long time for a molecule of water to go from Netarts to the actual treatment plant. It can take days.
So,
And it can go septic by then.
so this dioxide, this purchase for $4,676 would last how long typically?
So it's the second time we bought it in 7 or 8 years.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, this isn't something, we only use it in the summer. So it's not in the winter. There's enough oxygen already in the water from the main water and stuff that we don't have to use the chemical. We only use it under low flows in the summer and when it gets warm.
Okay. So,
I just didn't recognize it, that's all.
Right.
No, I didn't
Yeah, well, I don't think anybody on the board, except for maybe Jim, has ever seen the purchase
Okay.
of it, so.
okay, if there's no other questions, I'll turn it over to you for the monthly report. District report.
Okay. So let me take a copy of it so I can get through this. Treatment plant's running well within its permit limit. Still waiting for Zwald to make it out here to do the back truck work. On number 2, Cape One pump station was fixed yesterday. So they got all the bolts changed. They got the gasket was even still good. So they got, what it is was when the contractor got in there, he could take his hand and just wipe what was supposed to be the bolts and nut heads right off of it. That's how rusted they were.
Yikes.
So we had them fix both sides, change out all the bolts on both sides. So we should be good for a long time on that.
Yeah.
We did buy some of the extra parts that we assumed we were going to need. Just so you know, it's better to have them on the shelf and ready to go in case we do need them, which is the elbow that goes into our valve vault. So that is completed. Ocean Highlands Pump Station, we received the engine back, but really couldn't find anything mechanically wrong with it. Cummins missed the diagnosis on it. So it did cost us $1,700, a little over $1,700, but it's not the $7,000 that I was expecting. So the engine is bolted back in. We have now reassembly of all the other externals and stuff to put on it. Fan and water pump, fuel lines and all that stuff to put up. There's still a problem with the generator. So then once we have that done, we run it, we verify it, then we'll call Cummins to come back and look at the generator portion of it. The new generator has the purchase order has been put in for that. So I'm still waiting to get the information on it to okay that, but we should. They've changed to like 23. What did I put in here? 23. From it's down to 42 to 44 weeks now instead of 45. So sounds like a week, but this should change again. You know, it's all going to depend on the manufacturer and where we get in, if there's any cancellations ahead of us. So they're telling us that should drop. We should get extended. The UV disinfection screen that the board approved, that arrived, it's been installed, and we just received the extra additional parts for that as well. The manual transfer switch for the Netarts pump station and Oceanside pump station, the contractor has asked, since it's not really that long of a project to do, to come just before the generator arrives. That way they don't have to move it out and move back in, and they can, once the generator's here, they'll put everything in and they can test it. So they're only here one time. If not, it would probably most likely be a change order to have to come back again. So,
which would cost us more.
And it would cost us more, yes. So I have, I've gotten a hold of a realtor, Rob Trost Real Estate, Dusty Trost. He's found the property owner. It's owned, those two lots are owned by Triangle Properties LLC. They own both the properties. And it looks like according to the tax assessor, the real market value is $23,700 per lot. There's two of them. Of course, I've talked to the attorneys. We have to get that, and the owner will have to get that appraised. So I'm pretty sure unless the seller is, you know, if the seller is going to ask an exorbitant amount of money for them, then we have to go through the appraisal process.
Which is an appraisal cost.
Excuse me?
Which is an appraisal cost.
When we did the appraisal up here, it was $2,500, but this was for 10 acres. Those are those two small lots. Talked to Dusty about a little bit, 1,000, 1,500. That's what he normally sees for residential. So I can't imagine it would be any different for us.
Wouldn't that be part of due diligence on that?
Yes, and I need to talk to the auditor next to make sure that we go through all the processes for purchasing. So right now we have to see if it's even for sale, if they'll even sell it. It is the only spot really to place it. Options are if they don't sell it and we want to proceed, then we have to go through condemnation to get the lots.
They probably own other lots around there, so it's to their benefit.
Well, like I said, several years ago, when I first looked into this, there was one owner that owned 7 or 8 of those lots right there in a row.
I wonder if they own a number of.
Well, they've owned it since February of 2010. And I think it was about that time was when we first checked into that. So I'm just waiting to hear back. I just got this yesterday.
Have you gone in there to look up Triangle LLC?
No.
See what council is? It's twigging me that he might be the architect that's in charge of designing the fusion and the house on the hill. And they have plans to build there, but I could be completely wrong, but that's the right area, and triangles twigging me, so we should go and see who that is.
Yeah, and the realtor did say that, this is going to excite a lot of property owners down there. They've talked about it for years, but never thought NOSD would move forward with it. So
Excite well or excite badly?
excite good because there's already properties down there that are built waiting for sewers so they could finish their.
Like across the street,
Yeah, those garages across the street have
apartments upstairs.
I'm gonna have questions about it. Okay,
so, but just let you know that if this is approved and we purchase it, we still have to do easements through the other properties to lay sewer line in to put them all to gravity. So there'll still be more work after that and more cost. But we can't even move ahead with design. We have something preliminary, but we can't move ahead with design until we know where the placement's actually going to be.
And then I think you said it eliminates those that are on ejector pumps up above.
Right, so the board will have discussions and decisions to make of how we want to get them off those ejector lines and put them onto gravity. They've already paid their SDCs, they're already hooked up. What we've done in the past is we've run laterals to their lots, and then they have to pay their own plumber to come in and do the final connection. But we don't usually charge an additional fee. So SDCs can be used for this, as we all know. There's also, I had a question from the attorney, are we gonna put a local improvement district and charge an additional fees for that? But those are all board decisions if you want to do that to offset the cost. But that's what your SDC money is for, is to enlarge, your sewer system. And there's probably 20 lots down there that will benefit from this. All the way up to Regent, right up to the edge of Regent Road.
So along those lines, something I was wondering, it looks like, well, not quite that amount of land, but a chunk of land coming back up the hill could be sold back to somebody if they were interested.
Chunk of land.
Well,
you mean we've got more than we need?
Yeah, that's
that's
that
for the future.
That's not very large.
Oh, it is.
We would have to go through planning. Would have to find out if you could even split that.
It's part of the lot. But
It's a triangle piece of property.
Yeah, but remember, you don't see any piping. I don't know how the piping's gonna come into this pump
Yeah.
station yet. So it's like down at the main pump station, the old field plant. Everybody sees that large lot over at the side. What they don't understand, there are force mains and there are lots of sewer lines out there in that empty area. So we can't, once you do setbacks and once you can't build over our infrastructure, there's not a lot left.
Mhm.
It is a premium view, I get that, but we do have infrastructure under there.
Could we, just charge rent for van parking and then, have some overnight, money put in?
I'm going to just, that's a board decision.
I'll rent for the 4th.
Ocean Air installed our louver system, so the HVAC is up and working. They think they're not gonna have to change out all the controls. It looks like they still make the controls, they're just different part numbers, they're newer, upgraded. It's what they are, so it shouldn't be that extensive. It's just basically gonna be changing the wall units out. And then I think the little main screen controller inside. So it won't be as extensive as we thought before. And that's all I have. I did update the summary in the back on page 8. If anybody's looked at that, basically what you've already approved, I've just added in our upgrades and changes and generating stuff like that.
Then, under old business, we have the response to the Tennessee Homeowners Association, which Jerry was kind enough to prepare. And that went out We haven't heard anything more.
I haven't heard anything, no.
I was happy to see that decision by the board. In my absence, I would have voted for it.
Good to know.
So, and there were just a couple other things under old business that I'll mention. We finally got Judd Griner and Mary Clark paperwork to them, right? That took a little too long.
Took a lot too long.
Yeah. Just to change a name. But that's done. And as far as I know, they're
Judd and Mary signed it.
Signed it.
They have their copies, we have ours.
They did sign it. Good. Okay.
Yeah, it's done. It's completely done.
Okay.
It's in their file, signed copy here.
She put a thing on Facebook putting an ad for a tree cutter out and asking if anybody had worked with these people. So I assume that must be connected to that.
No,
I thought they had their vendor already, but
yeah, and that's the one that, Walker is the one that, has done all the work up on for Terrace residents before.
maybe it was just for something else. I'll double check on that.
Yeah, because what they sent in their email was Walker. They had Walker because they still have to provide their license and bond. You know.
Right, yeah, we didn't specify in the agreement what it was gonna be, just their credentials, but I just noticed that on Facebook.
What dates, wait, what is that, probably
Could be
6 months long, is like, might wait, seems like shopping around.
I saw
Okay.
Cynthia down at this meeting, Cynthia Miller. She was cordial, so.
Yeah,
that's
but
what-
Walker tree cutting, you're right, they're 6 months.
They're
out.
everywhere. Yeah.
They're always 6 months.
unless you happen to live next door and they're already working.
I know my neighbor in town, she had to wait, it was about 5 months before he could trim her trees.
So we got our plumber, we ambushed him at a neighbor's house.
You do?
And the only other thing from last month was good old Elkie Powers and her request for expanding sewer service. Did we ever respond to her, or we did?
Responded her twice. She's probably emailed 2 or 3 more times, or maybe even more than that after that, but we just stopped responding.
Okay.
We discussed that.
Yeah, I discussed it with Jerry, but
We said what we needed to say and indicated we wouldn't be saying any more, so.
Just so you're satisfied that we have done what we needed to do as a board,
Yes.
basically. Okay,
I think we went above, even a little bit more than what Jerry had said to do.
okay.
Because I'm cranky now.
We just don't like not responding.
Yeah, I just don't want to get into the mode, well, they never respond.
No, that's why when we talked, I said, wrap it up in a way so that we don't respond. It's because we said we're gonna be responding.
And we have copies in her file of responses.
Unless she raises something new, we need,
Okay.
our old answers still cover the current questions, so.
Okay, anything under new business? Let me just ask a question for the future. We were over at the chapel and Reverend Tim Maines was, opened it up and we talked to him and I asked him, did he know of anybody in our community that can benefit from their sewers being paid? Just wondering. Building on your questions, I mean, that you had raised, how do we get the advertising out there and so forth? He said he wasn't aware of anything like that. And, of course, he was more or less of the opinion that it's not really a community where there's seems to be a whole lot of need, which appears to be perhaps correct. I mean, he said he runs 120 through their operation there at Adventist Church in town. And I asked him, said, are you kind of tied in with CARE? He said, no, we're independent of them. But when somebody comes to us, I first send them over to CARE and then, they may end up coming back to us if they can't get any kind of government benefits. But where I'm going is, does the money just sit there, what, 6,000 approximately?
Mhm.
Sit there forever? Or do we look at some way to have it create some benefit somehow? And I realized that it was originally set up to benefit those that might have had problems paying their sewer bills when we had the increases in taxes. But just as a thought to think about, you know, it's money that's sitting there that's really not benefiting anybody.
It was donated for a particular.
Yes.
It was donated for a purpose, I know, but does that mean it sits there forever? That's all.
My understanding is it does.
I don't want to cut you off. Is there a way to put it into a contingency so that if asked, we pull it from somewhere else? Meanwhile, it can be, I mean, we can, if nothing else, we can put it in an account that generates interest and use the interest.
Yeah.
To some small benefit for people, but I don't think we can, I would be hesitant to break faith with the people that donated it. And for that much money.
It was donated for that
Right.
specific reason. That's what the donation was for.
Yeah.
And my concern is that we, as things change, board members change, that becomes non-existent.
That's a dedicated fund. It can only be, that's why we had to put it in its own line.
Yeah,
That's what I'm
So you put it
trying to say.
You put it in its own line item.
Yeah.
So I just,
And it, one of the things that I'd thought about years ago was, and I haven't really expressed that, I guess, is that should the county be aware that that's available for the district? If people go in and say they just can't afford it. I don't know. No, I don't know.
Would they go to the county to say that?
Or would,
They would come to us.
I don't know if that's appropriate legally.
No, I just don't think it's where people would go to express that they can't afford their sewer bill. I think they would come here. Or
Well, that's where
they go to care.
They have an application here they have to fill out to even fall.
You know, just,
So-
he's talking about advertising it and let the county know. Is that true? Am I right or am I wrong? But so,
Well,
some other people know about
When
it.
they go, when the bill goes arrears, it goes into foreclosure, basically. If you let it go.
But the problem with that is you've kind of expanded the scope of what it was intended for. And there are people that let their sewer bills go in arrears, even though they could qualify to pay their sewer bill, they would qualify to get that money anyway.
Yeah. Okay.
So it still wouldn't do them any good, even if because their income levels too.
Could I suggest, I mean, as a way of it not just sitting there, that we maybe buy some government bonds with it, put it in some kind of a, not a risk situation, but an interest situation where over time, maybe someone just will grow up and find some community purpose for that, because the interest wasn't donated. And it's not that much.
It's not that much.
You're right.
And we're not allowed to make money off. We're not allowed to create a profit off of it. And wouldn't interest be considered a profit?
What if the interest went back into the fund?
It's just saying, if there was some way in the budget to say that it's dedicated for some purpose, it's not just slush fund, but for contingency or future community investments. We're allowed to do that, I think.
I don't know. I was the one that pushed to put it in its own fund so that we can track that and prove to the people it's not being absorbed into our general fund and we're spending it on other things. It's
So
spent for
if
what
we were
it's worth.
generating interest even for a community purpose,
You know-
you feel uncomfortable with that?
At this point, I think we need to talk, I'll talk to the auditor about it. Just because, it is public funds and what you can do with it.
It even occurs to me that our fees keep going up, but that money doesn't. So growing it is actually consistent if we're growing that fund to be for the same reason. It's just growing because prices are going up. And so it's still, and $6,000 is going to generate $6 a year or something. I mean, it's-
If that,
Yeah. So-
Jeff,
Well,
you were going to say something earlier on, I think.
Yes, I'm sorry.
No, not at all. Just from my experience with medical calls in Tillamook, and backing up Tim Carpenter in Oceanside, I think we're getting to a point with some of the population that I think we will see a time when this is needed. We've had several instances in Tillamook where someone's had an unexpected stroke or some sort of life altering event and has taken over somebody that works out of that ability. So I think we should leave it forever, because I think there will be a time when something happens to someone and unfortunately they're going to need that resource.
Okay.
And it's not something that somebody gets and they get on it and they get to stay on it.
Right.
They have to reapply every year for it, yeah.
And there's a structure there when they put in their application as far as what their income is and whether they can meet certain hoops to fit through. So it's not just, oh, you're going into arrears, here's some money. It is pretty well structured, I think, when we built that. Okay, all right. Well, I just threw it out, wasting your time.
No, it's a good
It was a good
discussion. Yeah, it's a good discussion.
All right, no other new business? Any correspondence? None? And no executive session? Motion to adjourn. Second. And we're adjourned.
12, yes. And I've stopped recording.
Short and sweet tonight.
No, I just hit leave. I just hit leave.
So I could look at Chunk. She said,
That could be,
That's what I did.
I just totally closed out of it.
Thank you for being here this evening.
yeah.
We're rich.
Oh, yeah.